what are the soft skills that you as an event planner or you as an event organizer, or if you're hiring someone as your event planner or your event organizer or your event production person, what are the soft skills that you need to be looking for? What are the soft skills you need to have? What are the intangible things, the leadership principles, the foundation upon which a career or a successful event planning function needs to operate? Those are some of the things that we're going to be exploring together in the next couple of episodes of Creating Great Events. And just to dive straight into it, this episode is titled The Foundation of Seamless Events. What is the absolute foundation? What is the bedrock? What is the first thing you need to lay out whenever you have, if you want to have a seamless event, if you want to have a great event? What is that foundation? And the very first word, I used ChatGPT to give me some ideas of, hey, what is the internet saying? These principles, these things are the most important things that an event organizer needs to have. And as I was going through the ideas as well as brainstorming my own, I narrowed it down to this one. The very first thing that we need to have as an event planner, as an event organizer is it's even in the word when you say event organizer, and you probably even guessed it, but it's organization. You need to be an organized person. And now organization does look differently for different people, but you need to have some level of knowing this is going here at this time, who's going to be there, and all of these things. And so organization is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly important. Now let's talk about this word here, for example, and what this means to us. I have a vivid memory of walking into my dad's, my parents' office when I was a kid. So my dad would have a desk in one spot, and my mom would have a desk in another corner of the room. So same room, different corners. And my dad's desk had papers like everywhere. And my mom's desk was empty. There were no papers. They were all filed in drawers. And while my dad had drawers, a lot of the stuff was just out sitting there. But here's the thing is that if I asked either one of them, if I walked up to them and I said, hey, in the office, can you please tell me where this is? Is this, where is this? They would walk straight up. They would walk straight up to the place. They would maybe, if it was my mom, she would pull out a drawer and she would pull it straight out. If it was my dad, he would like reach under these three papers and grab this one that was right there. He knew exactly where it was. So for some people, organization looks like a clear desk. And maybe for some people, it looks like having a binder with color-coded tabs that are labeled L1, L2, L3, and then C1, C2, C3, and you have your own coding organization. Or maybe it looks like a stack of papers. To the outside eye, it's not incredibly organized, but you know exactly where everything is. Now, taking a step back, one of those is replicatable, so someone else can come in. Someone else cannot just come into the stack of papers and know where things are. So we're not talking about replicating yourself, but we are talking about organization at being one of the key foundation for any event. Now, this brings up and it begs the question, well, why? Why is organization so important, right? Like, why? Why do you need to be organized? And it sounds pretty intuitive. But if you think about it, there are some events that you go to and there might not be a ton of organization. There might be maybe some conscious level of organization. Like let's say you go to a Super Bowl party. It is now football season at the time of this recording. And sadly, the Jacksonville Jaguars have lost again. But in football season, if you go to a Super Bowl event, it might be that there's not necessarily an agenda or a timeline other than someone was like, hey, do you guys want to come over 30 minutes before the game? And then you can leave whatever you want to. We're going to set food out over here, and here's what the TV is going to be. Like, that's the level of organization. But it's still incredibly important in order to have a successful event, whether you have put conscious thought to it or subconscious. So another reason why it's important is because of the different stages, the different types of events, but then also the different stages that these events are going to go through. So in the last episode, I talked about two different things. I talked about the event agenda timeline, which is like, hey, at 6 p.m., it's going to start the cocktail hour. And then at 7 p.m. is going to be the wedding ceremony. And then at 7:30 p.m. is going to be back to cocktail hour. That's the event agenda timeline. And the event planning timeline is like, hey, 2 weeks before the wedding date, we need to be thinking about X. So I talked about these two things in this last episode, the difference between each. But then I also talked about how every single event has a pre-event phase, a during-event phase, and a post-event phase. And so organization, when you're thinking about how to create a great event, it spans across all of these. It spans across the pre-event, during event, and post-event phase. And organization is key and crucial and foundational so that you can stay on track, so that the people of which you are leading, your volunteers or your staff or your audience members, can stay on track. But then more than that, it's so that you can have a seamless transition from X to Y. I was attending an event one time, and one of the things that had been forgotten to be thought of was the layout of the event. So they said, hey, they had a very detailed agenda, but the layout, when it came down to it, they had hired a vendor that had microphones and had sound equipment, but the vendor didn't have a layout for the actual venue and the way it was going to be set up. So the vendor didn't know to bring a certain length of cord. And so the AV tech table was set directly in the midst of audience. Half the audience was on one side, half the audience on the other side. There was an aisle down the middle, and the tech table was right smack in the middle of it. Now, it was still a great event, and it wasn't incredibly awkward. I'm a firm believer that if you don't make it awkward or make it feel weird, then it's not going to be weird. But it still could have been better organized if there was one small key piece that had been thought of. So here's a couple of really interesting quotes that I found when it comes to organization. The first one is from John C. Mather, and he said, there is strength in numbers, but organizing those numbers is one of the great challenges. So let's say, for example, you have a community of 2,000 people that you want to get together to fundraise. Well, getting together a group of 2,000 people and organizing a group of 2,000 people and getting them to go out and serve the community and getting them to go to the right place at the right time, those are two separate things. So they're 100%, many hands make light work. Like, let's say you want to serve the community, you want to do yard work for elderly and widows, and you want to serve them, right? So you've got 2,000 people. Many hands make light work, so 100% is going to make the job easier, but organizing those 2,000 people is incredibly important. And then the last quote that I have to share about this before we dive into some stories and principles and examples that I've prepared is from Benjamin Franklin. And he said, for every minute spent organizing, an hour is earned. I'll say that again because it bears repeating. For every minute spent organizing, an hour is earned. I thought this was an incredible quote, especially for what we're talking about. I was the project manager for an event for the John Maxwell Company in the Atlanta, Georgia. And the event is called Live to Lead. They still host the event. They host it regularly. And I was project leading a part of the event. So I was leading a group of people where we were the welcome team and the fun team during breaks and during lunches and making announcements and things like that. As well as we were providing sound equipment for a welcome area for people outside and for the venue inside not in the main ballroom area, but in the outside corridor spaces to get everybody back into it after the breaks took off. And I made the mistake. I said, hey, staff, here's the email. Great. You've got a lot of details. And then because of the location, I allowed some staff to arrive 20 minutes. I arrived at a certain time, another wave of staff arrived, and then another wave of staff arrived. And what I found myself doing is that when one person would walk up to me, I would give them instructions, and then I would be in the midst of doing something that I needed to do because I was a staff there as well. And then all of a sudden I found myself 5 minutes later when someone else arrived, I found myself giving these exact same instructions again. And so if I had organized myself properly, I could have saved myself about 2 hours that morning. I mean, it was a very early morning before this event. I could have saved myself about 2 hours if I had organized myself on the front end and I had said, hey, everybody arrive at this one time. Yes, it's going to be early. I'm sorry for those you have to drive further. It's just the way it is. But arrive at this time, we're going to huddle together, and then I'm going to disperse you out the same time. That's how I should have done it, but I didn't. So I absolutely love this quote from Benjamin Franklin. Again, it's for every minute spent organizing, an hour is earned. Yes, and amen from the congregation. Now, here's the thing that I also know about organizing events is on the screen on the video. If you're listening to the audio version, this is a picture of me on stage at an event in California at Concordia University, and it was an event for students. And so this is what the event actually looked like, but literally about 30 minutes before the students walked in the door, this is what was happening. So this is a picture of me at a table. The room is empty. I'm at a table with Billy Bowie, who's an incredible MC, entrepreneur, businessman, keynote speaker. Check him out at Billy B Speaks or his company at elevateexperiences.com. I worked with Billy for a long, long time and still contract from time to time events. And so with this event, we were at a table preparing for the event, planning, getting organized. And I've got 1, 2, 3 computers in front of me. He's got one computer. He's got his phone. I've got my phone. We've got 2 microphones. We've got wires. We've got papers printed. We have clickers. We have a bullhorn. And so this is what it looks like before the event. And it can feel like this before your event takes place. It can feel like, hey, it feels a little bit like there's pieces of this everywhere. But when it comes down to it, what you want it to feel like when everyone walks in is you just want them to be smiling faces, see something clear on the screen. The stage is pretty much empty except for what you want on the stage. And you want it to feel like everything has been thought for and everyone is cared for. So what are some things that we as event professionals, if you are planning an event, maybe you're an expert event professional and you have already thought of these things. Maybe it's something that you just intuitively do. My goal is to help equip you and say, hey, these are things that you need to be doing every single time. And maybe you're already doing it. You just don't have a word for it. Or maybe you're a beginner event planner and you're just stepping into your career. And so these next ones are here to help you. But then beyond that, maybe you're somewhere in the middle and you're an entrepreneur and you don't do this that often. Or maybe you're an executive assistant and you were just asked by the entrepreneur or the CEO or someone else to help put on this event, or you're a marketing director. So these are all things that we all need to be thinking about. So the first thing is the calendar and the timeline, the calendar and the timeline. Now, the calendar and the timeline are the days and weeks and months leading up to your event. And that's taking a look at, okay, I've got 3 months until my event. I've got 2 months until my event. I've got 1 month. I've got 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week. What are you doing and when are you doing it? The next thing you need to be looking at is everyone needs to be looking at their contracts and their agreements. You need to know how to organize yourself around these and when do you need it and when do you not? Where do you file it and keep on to it and how long do you need to do that? Now, I'm not saying, hey, I am not a contract expert. I am not a legal entity or a lawyer, I should say. So I might not even be an expert at this, but you needed to be able to understand how to read them, when to keep them, when to sign them, when not to sign them. Do you sign them? Those kinds of things. And maybe that's something you need to be asking for other people for, but you need to have a general awareness. The reason why is, let's say, for example, you're hosting a wedding and you need to bring in an event planner. You need to bring in a catering company. You need to sign a contract for the venue. I was actually the DJ MC for my wife's uncle's wedding, and the bride was a little bit upset at the venue beforehand, because in the contract, it said that they could bring in their own outside bartenders. But like the day of the wedding, they were saying that they weren't allowed to. She literally had to pull up the contract and say, no, it says it right here. So we all need to at least be aware of what is being put into these and how to read them. So then layouts and floor plans. This is 100% something we need to be paying attention to. The layout and the floor plan matters for our event. I gave you one example. Here's another. This is an event that we hosted where we brought in RC cars. I was the host MC of this event. We brought in RC cars for people to drive, and it was a racing experience where they were racing each other up and down the aisleway. Well, this was in a conference ballroom. And so what we had to do beforehand, we had to say, okay, everyone's going to sit over here. And then during this session, we're going to have everyone stand over here. So we need to be aware of how these work. What can we do? What can't we do? Where can we do it? And things like that. On top of the calendar, going back to the calendar and the timeline, we need to be thinking about for the calendar and the timeline and for our floor plans and for our contracts and things, we need to be thinking about dates and deadlines. So what is the exact date we need to have this in place by? What is my deadline to have this purchased by? The other thing we need to be aware of is what is the hardware we need to have. So the microphone, the cables, the computers. What is the software we need to be using? Is it on PowerPoint? Is it on Keynote? Is it on Prezi? This is built on Canva presentations right now. So what are the softwares that you're using? And then if you want to go a little bit deeper into some of these, you need to also be an expert. If you're going to be organized as an event professional, someone who is being paid or doing this as part of your business, you are hosting an event, you need to think about and be an expert in note-taking. Now, why? Well, if you were to host an outdoor event and you were to go to, this is a picture of me standing in Clemson University on the field there. If you have a meeting with the equipment director and the head coach and the venue operator of the Clemson University Stadium, you need to be an expert note taker so that when you are revisiting the event plan 3 months down the road past your meeting, you can go back to those notes and make sure that you know that the stage is going to set up in this location. What is the size of the stage? All kinds of things like that, so that you can be handing it off to all of your vendors and your event staff and people like that. Not only that, do you need to know those things, but you need to be aware of, at least be aware of, and probably be an expert in budgeting. Now, I'm not talking about how to manage like a multi-million-dollar budget necessarily, unless that's what your business is operating in. And I'm not saying you need to go out and get your CPA license, but you need to at least know, okay, here's how I get quotes. Here's how I set my budget. This way I know how much I'm paying for X, Y, and Z. You need to be an expert in roles and responsibilities. If you have volunteers with you, or if you have staff on your hand, what is their role and what are their responsibilities? Those are going to be different things. Someone with the same role, maybe they are the host in this space and they're a host in a completely different space. Host number one has a keynote speaker. Host number two has an activity. Their responsibilities are going to be different. So what are their roles and their responsibilities? You need to be an expert at creating and managing detailed checklists. This was in a picture. This is a picture of me at an awards gala being the host MC there. And a checklist for an award ceremony looks different than a checklist for, say, a kid's field day. Why? Well, because an award ceremony, you need to know who is presenting, what are they presenting, what are they handing out, is the photographer going to be there? So those checklists look different than a field day when it's going to be what game is going to be played and where is it going to be and who's leading it, right? So they look different. So here's some the 3 big buckets of checklists that I always love to make for every event. There is your to-do list. So these are things that you need to get done or someone else needs to get done. There is your to-get list. This is things that you need to buy. And then there is your to-pack list. Your to pack list are things that you already own that you need to pack to bring to the event. And now we've covered a lot from X, Y, and Z, but all of these things communicate the importance of organization. We talked about different checklists. We talked about dates and deadlines. We talked about types of events, the different stages of events, but all of it comes down to this really simple principle, but it is the foundation for having a successful event, a great event, which a great event is not an event that is boring. A great event is not an event where people don't know where to go. A great event is not one where people don't have any food or water, or the air conditioning is too high, or they don't know the Wi-Fi password. That is not a great event. A great event is one where you are organized to the point where you know what's going to happen before you need to know it. And before someone else needs to know it, you're able to communicate that clearly, and you have all of it documented in a clear and succinct way, so that if something were to happen to you, you win the lottery. I was reading a friend of mine's post on LinkedIn today. She's an incredible event planner. Her name's Ann, and she said that if she were to win the lottery, she probably wouldn't show up to the event today. She would say, "Nah, you guys got it." But she prepared for the event in such a way that if she was not able to be there, it could still happen without her. And so you might be asking yourself, well, where do I start? If you are asking yourself that question and you've never done this before, you can go to eventbuilderpro.com, very clear there, eventbuilderpro.com. I'll put it in the show notes, where I've got a template that you can download. The template is called the Event Planning Made Easy Pack. I've built it on Notion. It's an amazing note-taking and checklist and budgeting tool all in one. It's kind of like a combination between Asana, if you've ever used that, and Google like documents and things. So you can check it out at eventbuildingpro.com. But again, the goal is just to stay organized. And if I can help you do that through this podcast, then I would be honored to. So let me know if you have questions. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, reach out to me on YouTube or other places, drop a comment, and I'd be happy to answer if I can, or bring on an expert in some other way in which some other person who's an expert in ways in which I can't answer your question for this show. But that is all about creating a great event from the organization side. And again, it's the first principle that we're going to be exploring together as we navigate the first couple of episodes of creating great events. Thanks, y'all, and I'll see you in a future episode.